Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Unconfirmed reports that Steve was parasailing, overshot the landing zone, but he'll be joining us momentarily. You can like us on Facebook. And you can even call us at 1-800-795-9565 and speak to Steve himself on any question involving sports. Glad to answer any and all questions that come in. Big news last night in the world of baseball was that the Phillies got beat in the desert in Arizona by a couple of runs. It was an important game as the Phillies are fighting for the wild card, but they're going to be on tonight again on the rubber match in the desert. Game time is 9:40. The pregame on WKOK AM 1070 starts at 9:05. Meanwhile, the hapless Pirates, and that is the word that everyone uses to describe them, lost another one last night at home to Milwaukee. In typical Pirate fashion, they gave a glimmer of hopes to their fans, but in the end, a bonehead play by their catcher on an interference and a rundown where they had the Milwaukee Brewer guy tagged out at the plate, but interference by the catcher cost them a run and they end up losing. Who knows who they're playing tonight? And the question really is, how long will Clint Hurdle stay as the manager of the Pirates? Not sure. In the world of sports, we got lots of things happening around the world. We have the World Cup of Soccer concluded for women. We have the World Cup of my favorite sport, cricket, concluded in England, with England winning over New Zealand. Coming up, the World Cup of basketball in September. The U.S. team has been put together by Kerr and Popovich from the NBA as their coaches, and they're ready to go in about 2 weeks to Australia. Lots of gossip and discussion in Australia about the American team. And then the World Cup of Rugby, the 15-man version, starts in September 21st in Japan, of all places. The Japanese trying to find a team sport that's suitable. They have picked rugby, but they're not doing all that well. But they're going to host the World Cup as a boost to the sport in the nation, much in the way that the U.S. years ago hosted the World Cup of Soccer, hoping to give that a boost. So lots going on in this quiet day of August. We have to ask Steve about Penn State and what they're doing in their practices. Have you joined us there, Steve?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent.
They'll go back to work today. They did not practice yesterday. They didn't practice yesterday because they're still in class. Summer session does not end until Friday, and so you do have to have a day off.
Somebody's got to study. Yeah, somebody's got to study for finals.
But it's an NCAA requirement.
Yeah, of course.
Then next week there'll be no classes. In fact, there's no classes for 2 weeks until they start back up on the 26th.
And is that when the fall semester at PSU kicks in?
Yeah, that's when it kicks in. Will be the 26th, that Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have a couple of guys going through finals this week, or have final projects due this week, or if they have internships, getting their final hours in this week. I know, for example, Cam Sullivan-Brown, I was talking with him, and he does have to come back into Channel 3, I think later this week, to make sure he's got the hours required. And I'll tell you, he and Antonio Shelton both interned with, quote, us all summer. Both 6-week sessions. They worked really hard. And I will say this, they really helped our perspective on the Unrivaled TV show that we do. Now, I only produce a segment, so I produce a segment that's not part of the football part of it. Mm-hmm. It's on the football show, but it's of other things. And those two gave our people a perspective from the player's point of view about what's important to them in the show. So they had them go through shows and say, what do you like? What don't you like? And they're going to give, there'll be I think a better product because of the input that they had. Those two worked very hard for us this summer, very hard.
They are what would be called in the business, I think, in that capacity, technical advisors.
Yeah, technical advisors. They also did a lot of logging of footage. They were part of the when they went out to do the green screen shoots that you see up on the scoreboard. They had to do their part, but then they flipped over and were working on the other side of it too, with cameras and so forth. So look, they worked very, very hard. That's why I always laugh. Oh yeah, they go to these things and and some people don't do anything. Well, I can tell you right now, those guys worked.
Well, it's potential careers post football and post graduation.
Sure. And they both did well.
What is the major called at Penn State? Generally, sometimes it's called mass communications. Sometimes it's called broadcasting. What is it titled at Penn State?
Oh, it's in the College of Communications.
Okay.
So it's in the College of Communications. There are various degrees that you can get. And I know in the Curley School of Sports Journalism, you can take classes in sports broadcasting, which is obviously what I teach, sports journalism, sports information, okay, the publicity part of it. So they have that broken down into different areas. And not only that, but something I think is invaluable is they produce their own television show entitled Center County Report. When you can get personal, hands-on experience in this business, that's the only way you're going to improve. I mean, to sit there and say, oh, there's no textbook in your class. There better not be a textbook. You can't do broadcasting through a textbook. You've got to be able to do it by practical experience. That's why I tell students when they get there, join Center County Report. You have to do that. All my projects are practical application projects, and I told them, join Com Radio, join the student radio station. That's the only way you're going to get better. I said, and use it, and use it, and use it, and use it, and make yourself better. Steve,
funny you should say that. There is no textbook, and where you as a professor in communications would say, now go to chapter 3, and I want you to read the 10 pages and do the questions at the end of the chapter. It doesn't work that way in broadcasting.
No. You have to be able to go out and just do it. I mean, you hear people on it. You hear Mark Lawrence on the air and the great job he does. Sean is brilliant. I mean, Sean is a broadcaster's broadcaster.
He
really knows the field. Kevin,
on occasion,
we make fun of the suit all the time. But in reality, Kevin does a great job. He's really good at what he does. Matty Catrillo's really good at what he does. So I mean, we got a lot of people like that in the building, that are really, really good at what they do because they've developed a style over time.
Sure.
They've developed something that's appealing to the listener over time.
Well, one of the things you and I talked about after yesterday's show was about that third guy on your broadcast team, Derek Williams.
Yeah.
Good guy. Brings his own perspective to the Penn State broadcast, game day, both on the pregame, during the game. He does a great job, but he's himself. He does, doesn't need to read a book to talk about what he talks about throughout the game, pointers and key points of the game, critical moments, etc. Good addition.
Who deserves a lot of credit for that though is Jack. Jack Ham does not a good job, but a great job of looking over at Derek and saying, Derek, we're going to talk about the punt return game here. So on a punt return, how does one develop judgment as to whether to take it back or not? And so Derek talks about, look, I'm looking. I mean, this is Jack. Now, he's leading him in to get him into an area of expertise. And that's what Derek talks about when the ball is kicked. Do the Gunners get a free release off the line of scrimmage, or are they hit? If they're hit, now I'm inclined to say I'm going to catch it and go. If they get a free release off the line of scrimmage, that's where I'm more inclined to fair catch it. Now, that's the kind of insight that a fan sits back and goes, wow, I learned something today.
Well,
right? And Jack's the one, and Jack does this with Derek all the time, Bob, on the pregame show. Jack's really good with that.
Well, the funny thing is, if there's anyone who knows about how to return a punt successfully, it would be Derek Williams, one of the best.
Oh, yeah.
He had to be one of the best in the country back, 2006, 2007 seasons?
2008.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah, he did okay, so he would know. But it's funny that you would say that it would be Jack who would, the legendary linebacker on the defensive side of the ball, sort of pushing Derek. It's amusing.
But he leads and asks those questions.
Sure.
Where he taps into Derek's expertise. I'll ask him about route running sometimes because, again, he's run routes.
Yes, he's
done it. He's done it at the highest level. But you have to be able to take that spot, and you have to make sure that you're utilizing it in such a way where you're drawing out that individual's expertise. And Derek has a certain expertise that certainly is beyond what either one of us have. Now, it comes to playing it. I mean, they're both way beyond anything I could possibly.
Steve, the one thing I will say, I join you on the radio periodically, but back in my college days, I was a broadcasting minor. And I broadcast football games for 3 seasons back at Little Westminster College when we were playing in the Division III national championships, etc., and it served me well in my career as a lawyer. And I've recommended to students who want to go to law school and want to become lawyers, go work at the campus radio station. It teaches you to think on your feet. It teaches you how to react to questions that come out of left field, literally. It teaches you how to edit things, etc. Broadcasting, what you do and what the 2 students from Penn State have done all this summer, is invaluable no matter what career you ultimately end up going into.
Oh, I think the ability to think on your feet, the ability to, you got to couple together thoughts to do stuff like this. You have to string them together, and you have to be prepared. If you're prepared, you can string together any thought whatsoever. People that got up there and stumble and mumble and bumble, I had to sit back and go, what are you doing?
Nothing more painful than that.
You weren't ready to go.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. You're not ready to go.
Now, the 2 players that intern, where do they fit in on the football team? We talked about their broadcasting. Where are they on football?
Shelton right now would be a first-team defensive tackle, and he's earned it.
He's good.
He's earned it, and that's the part where I give him a lot of credit because it took him, I think, a while to earn that spot where I was looking at him for a period of time, wondering, okay, I think he'll be good, I think he'll be okay, but can he be a difference maker?
So
now I think he's at a point now. I think now he has a chance to be a difference maker when he's out there.
And the good part about it, with his broadcasting internship this entire summer, he's really going to be great on the post-game interviews with you.
Yeah. Well, again, what they did was off camera.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, they did off camera stuff. But and Cam Sullivan-Brown right now has got himself in the thick of the wide receiver thing.
That's a big jungle in there with all the quality receivers that are going to be in the receivers room, during the season or in the preseason.
Well, this is where I look at it. That's why when I always talk about this, I talk about in multiples. In other words, I'm not looking at 22. I'm looking at 44. Well, at wide receiver, that means you need 6, and having a 7 doesn't hurt you. Well, if you can work yourself as to being one of the 6 or 7 guys, you're going to get playing time out there because there are going to be times they want to make sure that people have legs for the fourth quarter to make some plays as well. And I think that's an important element for this. That's why you do need 6 or 7. So if you put yourself in the thick of this, where you're one of those guys, then guess what? Then now you've earned yourself some playing time, and now you've opened the door to them making some plays, and he's done that.
Isn't it that old truism in football and in all sports, basically, it really doesn't matter who starts the game, it's who finishes. And that's why you need so many, like, say you said, 7 wide receivers, who all should be getting lots of playing time.
Well, sometimes, though, what somebody who may not be one of the finishers, what they end up doing is that they open the door to fresh legs for the finishers.
Sure.
So there's a domino effect that comes into play with that is really important. Do you open up the door for the finishers to finish because they are fresh to do it, as opposed to, I've been running up here 75 plays during the course of the game. I've been sprinting downfield on long plays that, right, whatever, and and I'm out of gas. Now you swing it around to the other way, and when you swing it around to fresh legs because you're rotating 7 different guys in there, now it opens the door, I think, to better performance in the fourth quarter.
That's where games are won and lost.
Yeah. We will take a break. You can win a game in the third quarter. You can win a game in the second quarter, too.
True.
We will take a break. We'll come back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
It's time to stop smoking once and for all by attending the next.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is The Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Bob Buhner alongside today.
Glad to be with you. Looking forward to hearing what Matt has to say from the city of brotherly love.
In a moment.
Yeah.
Kyle, you were telling me that there was a flimsy excuse why you're in today?
Yeah, our regular producer, not Sean, but the film producer this week, Zach, he kind of called last minute and he's like, I don't think I can make it today. We're like, okay, we hope everything's okay. He's like, yeah, my wife is in labor. So he's having a baby, so that's great.
Where are his...
No.
Yeah.
She's having the baby.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay, I mean, all right, we've got a show to do.
Exactly. Or the guy's priorities, Matt. Send a message. Text him.
I mean, I hope that the new director of finance and engineering and Goomba, whatever's listening to this,
yeah.
And I think severe action should be taken.
Yeah, at least see if she could hang on until Saturday. I mean, there's no show Saturday.
I mean, come on. Just don't go over until 5:30.
Yeah.
It's not too much to ask.
Hey,
she'll be there.
All we want is a healthy, beautiful baby. That's all we want here.
Absolutely.
So,
And
congratulations. We're thrilled. We can't wait for the good news. So.
Absolutely.
And thanks for throwing the heavy innings over there, because you've already worked this morning.
Yeah, no problem. Piece of cake. But the funny thing about that is that he was almost nervous. I think he's like, yeah, I really don't think I can make it in. Is that okay? We're like, well, yeah, that's all right. That's fine. So yeah.
Did he want us to vote?
Steve and Kyle, when my wife went into labor with our second child, I got a call. She's in labor. Would I come to the hospital? I was in court, and doing.
What'd you do?
I continued on finishing a case, and the judge said, "Is there something bothering you?" And he was kind of angry, looking at me like. I said, "Well, my wife's in labor," and he basically said, "You need to be at the hospital. What is wrong with you? If I didn't think you needed to be there, I was going to hold you in contempt of court for not being there." Oh, jeez. So
when my son Dan was born, I was doing play-by-play of a Lady Lion basketball game, and it got to halftime, and I got a note because this is 1986, so there was not a text.
Yeah, exactly.
Kathy's in labor. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was working with a guy named Mike Mackey. No, I was working with Paul Alexander at the time. I looked over at Paul. I said, "Take her home, big man." I said, "I'm going to the hospital."
Yeah.
All right, let's bring in Matt Leon from Philadelphia. Matt, welcome back. Great to have you with us, my friend.
Good. How are you? Doing well. The Eagles did have their open practice the other day. They were able to bring fans in and so forth to watch them practice. I had a couple of friends go down, and of course security escorted them away. But I mean that was but that's a personal thing. But what does one learn from that, other than the public relations part of it?
I don't think much. I think it's strictly just a chance for the fans to kind of connect and kind of see the team in person. I mean, training camp used to be a rite of passage. It wasn't that long ago when, people would take family vacation, go up to Lehigh and watch a week. And then when they started moving it back here, I think it started with 5 open practices, and it's slowly been whittled away to where this was it this past Sunday. So I think it's more just a chance for the fans to see the team in person and get excited. I don't think you learn anything from those workouts, because I think those workouts are probably purposely made as vanilla as possible.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think with doing away of two-a-days, I think that's also done away with the idea of more fan interaction. Vic Fangio of the Denver Broncos, their head coach, he says, look, open it up. He said, let more fans in, because he thinks that, and his point is, he said, look, you're trying to make still some connection with the fan. You can't keep cutting them off.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think there's only one team that doesn't open practice at all, and then it's the Eagles with one. They're one of the lowest. And I get the logistics of, opening up the link and stuff like that. I just think there has to be a way. I can't believe there's not enough money rolling around in the NFL that they can't find a way to get fans more access, to training camp, because, I think that is big. It is a place where you kind of connect and stuff like that. And it's really where I think this generation of fans, they became so passionate because they would go to Lehigh and you would shake hands and get autographs as guys were coming out. And I think you lose that. I mean, is the league going to, fall off a cliff popularity? Of course not. But I think stuff like this, when you kind of close it off and you corporatize it in other levels, you might see a slow winnowing away along the edges, and eventually that can turn into a problem. So I agree. I just like I said, I get the logistic argument, but I just can't imagine there's not a way to make this better.
Right. Look, everybody except for the Ravens, everybody's running the same offense anyway. No offense. Really, everybody's running the same stuff. All right, let's get to Miles Sanders. What kind of start is he off to, by all accounts, in Eagles camp to this point?
I think he keeps impressing more and more. You talk about that open practice. He had some jump cuts in some live work that really just kind of, made you go, wow. I think he's going to be a big piece. I think Doug Peterson mentioned today at the podium, their last full workout before the exhibition opener on Thursday, that he wanted to see Miles Sanders hold on to the football. I think that's his biggest concern right now. Make sure he doesn't fumble. A lot of times young players will struggle maybe a little bit putting the ball on the ground, but he's been impressive, and I'm very interested to see how the Eagles utilize him. They went out and they got Jordan Howard to be the number one, but I think it's not crazy to think they might have a 1A and 1B even at the start of the season.
And the fumbling part is a key part. There were a couple times last season where everyone knows at a moment he did have a fumble, and that's going to be the issue once Jonathan Taylor of Wisconsin gets to the league too, Matt. Taylor the number of yards after contact so impressive, but Taylor's a fumbler, and in this league, is it safe to say in the NFL, I mean, turnovers aren't tolerated anywhere, but in this league, they do everything they can to absolutely stay away from it, to the point where some teams are very conservative with what they do.
Oh, absolutely, and you've seen more than one young running back, maybe put a ball on the floor twice in a quarter, and that's the last you see of them that day. So it's important. I haven't been out at camp, so I can't tell you if Sanders has had any issues during camp putting the ball on the ground, but it's something they're keeping an eye on. And I think the fact that that's kind of maybe Doug Peterson's top-line worry probably shows you how impressive he's been running the football and picking up the offense, because I think they have high hopes for him, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's got a big role right away.
Matt, what were some of the other items that he brought up when he had a chance to talk about his team?
Well, he still, at least publicly, isn't saying how much the starters are going to play on Thursday. I think a lot of people expected maybe kind of a rough outline of whether Carson Wentz would play, and if so, how much, and how much the other number ones. And he's kind of playing it coy. I can't imagine he doesn't have a good idea, but they're still looking at it. But other than that, it's been a pretty quiet camp, and I tell everybody with like spring training and training camp, no news is good news. If you're getting the same generic sound bites out of camp, I think that's a very good thing, because that means no catastrophic injuries, and that means no holdouts. It means no nonsense. And so far, it's been a very quiet camp, I think, for an Eagles team that is very determined and incredibly talented. I think they've got one of the top rosters in the NFL, so Doug Peterson has to feel pretty good about where they sit right now.
Yeah, you absolutely have to see that. Is there a position that in a preseason game, or let's take a couple of preseason games, that will give you a feel as to how it's going to play out one way or the other? Is there any position in particular you want to look at?
I think the defensive secondary, I think Rodney McLeod is working his way back from an injury. Obviously, he's got Malcolm Jenkins, and, one of the best in the game. And they've got other cornerbacks, kids like Rasul Douglas, and, Ronald Darby's working his way back from injury, and Vontae Maddox. They've got pieces in the secondary. I think you want to see how that emerges once the season starts. And that's really where I'm looking. I'm not even, I want to say so much concerned, because I feel like they've got talent there. It's just a matter of how it manifests itself and how the roles break down. So I think that's something to watch here in the spring, or in the training camp, rather.
And I want to get to the Phillies for a moment. They are now tied with Washington in the wild card race. They won at Arizona last night, 7-3. 7 good innings from Vince Velasquez and Scott Kingery homered. Did the acquisition of Dickerson open the door for them to take Franco and send him to Lehigh Valley, because now Kingery can go back to the infield?
I think that was part of it. I get the feeling this was kind of brewing. Franco is the latest on a long list of guys in this organization who frankly haven't gotten any better. Maikel Franco has the same holes in his game now that he had in May of 2016, and I think they wanted to get Kingery more at bats. They want to keep Adam Hazley, the first round pick from a couple years ago, the rookie outfielder, in the lineup. And getting Dickerson, although I don't think they're ready to commit to playing him every day, I would imagine that's going to eventually happen. And at that point, you needed somebody's going to be the odd man out. I think they weren't comfortable with the idea of Franco playing once a week. I don't think they thought he would be productive if he wasn't in the lineup. He wasn't the type of guy who could get your one start and maybe play half the game other than that and still and play at a consistent level. So I think they thought this was the best move. I think the Franco problem is, in my opinion, part of a bigger problem of this offense. I think that's the one thing I can't figure out for the life of me as I watch this team is why they don't score more runs and why they don't hit more. I mean, I know the loss of McCutchen was big, don't get me wrong, but I find it hard to believe that, losing one player who had been with you for 2 months can have the catastrophic shockwaves in a lineup that I'm not saying it didn't hurt. It absolutely did. But when you look at the talent they've got, and a Bryce Harper, Rhys Hoskins, JT Realmuto, Gene Segura, and even, Cesar Hernandez is a solid major league player, and Scott Kingery has hit now like people expected him to hit last year. So my point is, if this offense was performing like I think it should, and most people think it can, then all of a sudden Maikel Franco can hit 230, but hit the ball out of the ballpark once a week, play good defense, batting 8, and you can live with him. I think with the rest of the lineup, so much fits and starts and inconsistent, all of a sudden his work gets magnified more, and there's more pressure to make a move there. So I was kind of surprised to see it. I kind of get it. And we could probably deconstruct this, is one of my big concerns about the organization is why young guys don't get any better with this team. You know, you look at Franco, you look at Nick Williams, Aaron Altair, who they let go earlier, and then you look at a couple guys that they traded in the offseason, J.P. Crawford and Jorge Alfaro. I'm not saying either's a star, but both players have taken nice steps forward, where here they kind of seem to make the same mistakes and perform at the same level. And then you look at the pitchers, guys like Nick Pivetta. You know, I know Velasquez pitched well last night, but it's the first time this year he pitched 7 innings, and it's August. I mean, I know he hasn't been in the rotation all year, but that's absurd. So, you know, Nick Pivetta, Zach Eflin, Vince Velasquez, you know, these guys all do the same things they did 2-3 years ago. And it's concerning to me on a big picture level why players don't ascend here, why they don't seem to get better. And in some cases, they've gone other places, and they've taken the steps forward that you'd want young players to take. I don't have an answer for that, but to me, it's a significant cause for concern.
Which makes me one final question, and I'll let you go, Matt, and that deals with Gabe Kapler. Are the next, 7 weeks really important for his future with the organization, or is he rock solid with the organization, and let's just see how it plays out?
I don't think he's rock solid, but I would be stunned if a move's made. I'm not I think Kapler, in my opinion, is a middle-of-the-road manager.
Yeah.
We can make arguments like my point of why don't guys get better? What role does he play in that? But I think Kapler's had an all-right season. I thought early in the year when things were going well, I applauded him because he kind of stayed out of the way. He put his lineup out there. He knew he had talent, and he let it roll. He didn't get too cute, didn't try to reinvent the wheel. Now, circumstances have caused him to have to try to create some things out of thin air, but I think he is really tied to GM Matt Klentak because he was kind of an out-of-the-box hire, and I think they'd really have to have a catastrophic last 2 weeks for changes to be, or last 2 months rather, for changes to be made. I frankly think they're going to be in this race till the end, whether they like it or not, because I don't think there's anybody in the National League good enough to kind of push out and really take control of it. So, if they win 85, 87 games and, get the wild card or miss it by a game, is that worth making a managerial change? I don't think so, but I don't think he's rock solid, but I think it would take a catastrophe for them to make a move.
And the Matt Leon podcast, next one is?
Tomorrow it'll be released. We talk with Mike Costanzo, former Archbishop Carroll baseball star who was the Phillies' top draft pick in 2005. Was traded to the Astros organization in a deal that brought Brad Lidge to the Phillies. And we kind of talked about his pro career and finally getting to the big leagues and what it was like getting drafted by your hometown team and then traded. It's interesting. It's fun. And you can find one-on-one with Matt Leon wherever you find your podcast.
Awesome. Hey, look forward to it very much. Matt, thanks a lot for your time. It's always great talking with you.
Thank you. Take care.
Matt Leon from Philadelphia, back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK, brought to you by Sunbury Motors. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you, the other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years. Great to have you with us on this Wednesday. Penn State and Ticketmaster are going to expand the digital ticketing technology to major athletic facilities with an extended official partnership. Phone technology is now going to become critical when it comes to tickets.
You know, Steve, this is the complaint department matter for me. I was hoping to buy some Penn State tickets this year, but I have a dumb phone. And apparently the only way one can get Penn State tickets is you got to have a smartphone.
Yeah,
and you can't get the old, get an email and print it out and show up at the stadium and they scan your printed email ticket. I got to bring the smartphone. So I'm in a quandary. Do I get a smartphone or what do I do?
Well, again, this is the quandary the suit was in.
Yes.
He doesn't like anything smarter than him.
Well, that's...
So his office is bare?
There's nothing there.
Look, I realize that you are like Matt Millen, and believe it or not, at one point like Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Flip phones.
That's a very nice comparison. Thank you.
It's like, Kyle, I'm here to serve, to make people feel better.
I feel better already. Just me and Matt.
So is Matty Ice there?
No, Matty Millen.
Oh, Matt Millen, yeah. So that does bring into play a problem. Now, if you get a season ticket, I believe you're going to get a card. A season ticket card, I believe. If you want to get, you can get obviously the Ticketmaster app. You can download the mobile wallet. Yeah. Now, printed home PDF tickets are no longer going to be accepted at Penn State home games.
I know.
Now, this is going to reduce ticket fraud. It will do that. So
that's all I was getting in.
And that is... I really wasn't going to get to that part, Bob. I really was going to keep it under wraps.
I got out on bail to make the game last season.
And we're happy you did.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, that's what they're going to do.
Wow. Hey, next half hour, I want to ask you about Clint Hurdle. You asked about Matt Leon about the Pirates, or the Phillies skipper. What about the Pirates skipper?
You're listening to News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury. You can hear us